Let's introduce our panel. Obviously, it's Bruce and Gaydos. We've got Chuck Coughlin, President and CEO of High Ground. Good to see you, my friend.
Great to be here.
We got Mike Broomhead, our buddy from the mornings here on KTAR. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
We've got Gayle, television and radio personality. Wonderful to see you.
Yes, my 26th anniversary of having a relationship with KTAR this year.
How
In
about
July of 1998, I started.
I didn't even know you were that old.
Yes.
I know. I'm still eligible to run for president.
Okay.
Let me start with this. If you're a Democrat, you're pretty happy that he's not running. That was tough to listen to. I watched it and listened. That's tough. I think if you're a Democrat, you're like...
That's who he is.
I don't mean to be mean, and I'm not trying to be... I thought some of it was quite moving. But I think when you look and you listen, if you're a Democrat, you're like, I'm glad he's not running. Am I way off? Because I don't think I am.
No.
We made eye contact during the speech.
Yeah.
He was working through words. He had a trouble, digesting the speech itself. It was a great speech. Let's be clear about that. You're going to hear the thematics that he just talked about. You're going to hear those time and time again as the convention unrolls in Chicago. But you're absolutely right. I mean, good time to go. Good time to go.
Well, the thing is that, for a long time, I've noticed that Biden has had the speech issue. The way that he talks now is not so much different than before when he had his little malapropisms with his speech. But I think because there were so many people at the time that he was elected that were very tired of what they were hearing come out of Donald's mouth, that they didn't care. They just wanted somebody they had somebody who they thought, he's been at this a long time. He's well qualified. He's not a DEI, and neither is Kamala. And those people who keep saying that, people who keep saying that is like, you don't become an attorney general just, because of DEI.
We're going to get into that for sure.
But the thing is that Joe Biden has a history of working in government for the United States, working for the American people.
50 years.
Yes.
Of it, yeah.
And so when he stepped out, when he said, and this is what triggered a lot of Democrats I know, is when people started saying, he's the worst president in history and he should have never been running in the first place. And I was like, well, does that make Jimmy Carter better? I mean, because that's who a lot of people don't like, my dearly departed mother loved him, by the way. And so the thing is that people have to remember that this person worked in the government a long time. He worked us through a pandemic. He had to provide leadership then. And by the way, he's had this isn't the first time he's had COVID.
Yeah.
And he survived that. And a lot of people did not. Yeah. So we have to remember to give people the political respect for the office they deserve, whether or not you like them.
It struck me that this was less a retirement speech or what. This was a little more of like a campaign speech. This was a political speech, right?
Oh, it was.
This wasn't a here's why I'm leaving the race. And I thought that was very little of it.
He never said, I can't do it anymore.
No.
Did he say any of that? No. But he just said, I have to do what's best for my country and my party.
Mike, did he do what's best for his country and party, or was he pushed out?
Both. I think that he ultimately had to make the decision, but I think when the donor money dried up, when they said we're not going to write the checks anymore because we need leadership change at the top, when you look at the numbers and the directions they were headed, they were going downhill for him very, very quickly. And I think Chuck knows better than anyone in this room that when that trend is going in that direction that quickly, you've got to make a change.
All hands on deck.
And the donors said we're not going to write any more checks, and I think that was when he made the decision.
And you know what that reiterates? The business of America is business. You could say you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, or whatever. But if somebody is withholding money and it's affecting their dime, then that's what's running this country.
When I listened to the speech, we're inside the war room. If you're just joining us, President Biden finished up at the White House. I don't know, guys, 15-minute speech, something like that.
Yeah, right around 15.
Okay. I'm grateful as an American that I don't have to hold my breath and see how he does. I know that he's going to run the country until the end of the year, until January. But I'm almost a little relieved that I'm not going to see him out in front of people every day and struggle.
I think he is too.
I think maybe he
being
is.
out of the spotlight.
It's clear he was not capable of taking the fight.
Not at all.
To Trump.
Yeah.
because 80% of the public didn't want to have this. I mean,
Yeah.
the numbers were over the top in terms of people saying he was too old to run. Finally, he took the message, and I think everybody's taken, a giant sigh of relief, other than maybe Donald Trump.
But don't you think, to Gayle's point, what here is, I am obviously sitting to the right of you two. I'm to the right of everybody in this room, but he's
And it's okay.
Yeah,
We love you, Mike.
This black woman loves you.
I'm not excluding you, Michael.
I thought when I
Clarify.
walked in, this was an intervention.
No.
So
When I'm president, you will be my PR person. You'll be my Corinne Jean-Pierre.
Hey, we've got Democrats, Independents, Republicans. It's all good in this room.
But Joe Biden is my president. And, Ronald Reagan suffered, but he didn't have to do it publicly. We even watched Bruce Willis be protected by his family.
Yes.
There are people that we see and
Roosevelt.
respect. Yes.
They didn't even photograph him in his wheelchair a lot. He was in a wheelchair.
So
Yes, he was.
for us as a nation, it is good for us to let him with dignity. Well, and I disagree with almost everything he said. But I want my president to be dignified, and I want him to receive the dignity that the office of the president deserves. And now he can do that, and I like that.
Few pot shots at Trump here, for sure.
Yeah.
There's a
Oh.
lot of democracy in there.
Yeah.
I think he said it at least 4 or 5 times. That's headed right towards Donald Trump. He said, it's hope versus hate. He's directing that towards Donald Trump. Does character still matter? I wrote that down. Obviously, that's, towards Donald Trump.
How about pass the torch, new voices, younger voices? That's
Yeah.
definitely a shot.
That's
Yeah.
huge.
I mean,
That's
the
huge.
narrative here is pretty well established. The convention in Milwaukee was, how bad the country is, how awful things are, how terrible it all is. She's going to come forward, as he started to tonight, with a litany of things that are great, that are good, that he's going to say, I believe, like he said today, I believe in America. I believe, and I think most Americans believe in America, and I think they want to hear that.
So,
a
real
lot-
quick, we got the War Room. We got Chuck Coughlin, Gayle Bass. We've got Mike Broomhead in. We've got Bruce and Gaydos. Go ahead.
Well, I think it's interesting that, people are going to disagree about, they think crime is bad, but the statistics show it's not. It's just what you choose to believe. And it's at that point where people have to, not everybody wants to believe the reality that it is. And I think and I don't know if we're ever going to get back to that.
But isn't it fair that when you are not the incumbent, your job is to talk about how bad it is and how much better you're going to do?
Yeah, but the thing is that it's not the truth. The thing is,
But it rarely is what everybody says about it.
Yeah, but what cracks me up is like I was watching this interview with 4 female white teachers, and they were talking about, I don't think Kamala's qualified, and I was like, by whose standard? I was like,
Women are always harder on other women. Let's all be
I
clear
was like,
about that.
and they interviewed them on purpose because you could see like Democratic white women, like Martha Plimpton, the actress. She said, "White women unite. We got to stand behind. It's up to us." And it kind of is. They're the ones that determine like we don't want 4 more years of Trump. But I think the fact is that I think we as Americans, regardless of party, have to be realistic about what is really going on and what do we really want our president and government to do.
But, but it's a two-way street, right?
Yeah.
Because I defended President Obama when he was president, when Republicans were saying, if we reelect him, we are going to lose America. It'll never be the same. And 18 months later, our Republicans were saying we've got the best economy we've had in 50 years. And vice versa is true. I don't think that Donald Trump is going to take away democracy if he's elected president. I think when they talk about how good things are and how much better they will be with her as president, that's the message. But if you say democracy is being threatened, that's the negative.
But look what happened on January 6th, where you had congressmen who were huddling in Congress and they were terrified, and there are pictures of it. Then they come out a month later saying, oh, these were just people who wanted to just voice their opinions. It's like that's not right.
I think
it's not right. But
that's the risk to democracy.
But
I
the other
see the
side
point.
Of it, okay, but you got to remember also in the inauguration of Donald Trump, how many Democrats said he wasn't legitimately the president, and they didn't show up for his inauguration.
Right.
Yeah, but you always got people saying that.
But let the independents speak here. Both parties.
Chuck Coughlin.
Both
Go ahead.
parties are screwed. They're both narratives.
Here comes the ballot initiative speech.
Oh, geez.
Both narratives. I mean, is it a doubt? I mean, does anybody doubt? Does anybody feel that the two institutions that are politically running our country and organizing these discussions have the country's best interests
I like
at
to
heart?
point out, Chuck,
They do not.
these are private institutions.
Yes, it's a
they are
business of America. It's
voluntary that you
business.
join
And they're
them.
encouraging
And
the
they're
kind
not
of
mentioned in the
combat that-
Constitution or anything.
I want to get into the DEI segment here in a minute. I want to do that next.
Gaydos herding the cats right now.
Good luck.
This is good. It's a
I
good
don't think
start.
they're going to get us three together again.
Oh, no, we will.
We're going to
President
savor this while it lasts.
President Biden just finished speaking. Some of it was moving. Some of it certainly taking a shot at Donald Trump, saying presidents are not kings. He said that right off the bat.
We have an amazing group with us here today. The best and the brightest in the Valley. For goodness, our very own Mike Broomhead is with us. We have, of course, TV's Gayle Bass and Chuck Coughlin, the president and CEO of High Ground Consulting. Great to have you guys in the room with us. We had Biden's, whatever you want to call that, at the top of the hour, kind of. I mean, it was a speech, but I don't know what kind of speech. Was that really?
Yeah, but he's going to do a farewell address.
I was going to say, those are coming.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, this was kind of a...
He's going to show his fire at the convention.
Yeah, I think he had to show a
think
little
so?
bit.
Oh, it's the convention.
I think he had to show that he was energetic enough to run the country. I think people were looking for that.
I think he had to show he was alive.
Yeah.
Back from COVID.
But we know already, and I got to tell you, I mean, I think by Sunday night, it seemed like most of the Ds had turned the page and moved on. Biden who?
By Sunday night, it was like 10 minutes later.
They were on to VP Harris. They're not talking about Biden. They're not
Freight
riding
train.
with Biden. They could care less about Biden. They were never in love with Biden.
It was a sense of relief, I think.
I think there's a lot of that.
Yeah, and there was remember the energy behind her when she was running against Biden in the primary. Remember when she first launched her first presidential campaign? There was a lot of energy behind her, and then it kind of just petered out.
So the question is she going to be able to keep it? But we already know some of the attacks against her are not necessarily just policy driven. Some of them, you could argue, have some what do you want to say, racial or gender undertones to them.
Some animus.
Animus. I'm going to Google animus here in a
That's a
second.
symposium
$5 word.
That's a symposium word.
I know what that word means, and let me explain. As the DEI in the room.
Oh gosh, Gayle, why don't we play a little bit of a montage? Some of the Republicans talking about Vice President
This is
Harris.
just in the last few days.
Was diversity, equity, and inclusion hire?
He said he's going to hire a black female for vice president, and that he just skipped over. What about white females? What about any other group? When you go down that route, you take mediocrity, and that's what they have right now as a vice president.
Are you suggesting she was a DEI hire?
100%. She was a DEI hire.
He's a congressman.
Part of it. We also had a Congressman, Maxwell Frost.
Yeah, the last one, he was from Kentucky, and his name is...
He's Democrat.
No, the last guy was the Kentucky guy, and I forgot his name already.
I want to call her a DEI president or DEI candidate. She has more experience than Trump and J.D. Vance combined times a million, right? She worked at the state level. She was the attorney general. She's vice president of the United States. She was a senator representing one of the largest states in the entire country. And so these are just racist dog whistles. Whenever you hear DEI, I want you to think about the N-word. I want you to think about racial slurs. That's what they actually
went there.
mean.
Wow.
So, now listen. You had the House GOP leadership come out and tell members, stop talking about this crap. Like, don't do that, right? Some got the memo, some didn't. We shall see. But it does seem that even they know that there's an issue with painting her race as the only reason she is where she is.
Well, let's face it. I'm going to throw something out there because, like Obama, she's biracial. She's half black, and she's half South Asian Indian. And for those people who didn't do well in geography, as the DEI in the room, let me explain. That's the Indian subcontinent.
Okay.
That's South Asian.
I had to Google it, by the way.
East Asian is Japan. Okay, let's go there.
That's where it comes
yeah,
from.
so she's like I love this. I love that I'm educating you guys on this. So think about
her mother was in India.
Okay, so yes. So let's think about all the Indians who do really well in this country, they are immigrants. Immigrants are more likely, some of them are American born, obviously, but they're more likely to be your doctors. They're more likely to be your scientists. They're more likely to be the ones that win the spelling bee. So these are people who they are what people would call the model minority. So if you're going to sit there and say that a model minority is DEI and not as smart, you're treading on very, very thin ice right there. You cannot do that for somebody who graduated and became an attorney general and a prosecutor.
Chuck?
I'm totally with my sister Gayle because my heart surgeon's an Indian doctor and he's fantastic. Love the guy. But there's an article in the Atlantic this week. It's in this week. It's called "The Emerging Bipartisan Wokeness," and it's all about how MAGA is wokeness on the right and there's wokeness on the left, and it's both created out of this narrative to have Americans hate each other. And it's exactly doing what it's supposed to do. And I'm exhausted by it.
Thanks, Putin.
I'm exhausted by it. I want to hear about what we can do as Americans to make our country better. I don't want to hear that we're living in a third world nation, as the former president announced in Milwaukee. And I don't want to hear defenses of woke, institutional models in our college. I think even DEI is dying out at college right now. I think people are retreating from it because they know it's a false narrative.
Mike, do the Republicans have a problem with rhetoric, DEI hire?
I think, there is rhetoric there. And the only defense I will make is this, is if the President of the United States says, I am going to choose a black woman as a running mate, is he setting this up for this conversation?
He didn't say that. He said he would pick a woman.
But okay.
He never said black woman, but he did
say that about the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm. He did say about the Supreme Court, yes.
So they are much smarter than I am. But if you lay that out and say, I'm going to do that, are you setting that person up to someone to say you were only hired because you fit that?
That's the EOE requirement.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. But I want to look at our nation's history, too. 104 years ago now, women didn't even get the privilege of voting. It's going to be 104 years. I love my man. 104 years ago, they couldn't even vote. And I think that's something, as Biden said in his speech tonight, all created equal. We've always had a long struggle to live up to our ideal. We're still currently doing that, people.
I think the best line of his speech was when he said, we haven't always lived up to it, but we've never run away from it either.
Right.
100%.
I thought that was fantastic.
We are that. You know what? Why do people still come across the border? Why do people still try to come here? Because we are that shining city on the hill. This is a country where the immigrant is going to be the person who's more likely to be the next millionaire. They have that drive where I feel like, Americans have gotten comfortable. We've gotten comfortable.
Of course we have. Absolutely.
Can I say that? Ooh, did I just move right?
Elon Musk is an immigrant. I mean, come on.
Well, there's that.
Yeah, well, they come in all shapes, sizes, and colors.
Well, let's just say my electric car will be the Ford Mach-E.
It's the principle of America.
Yes.
It's founded on a Republican model, and it's founded on capitalism. It's founded on free market values. And we need to embrace that. So that's why we're running this initiative.
And I could say this because I taught Sunday school for 5 years. When we're having dumb legal arguments over whether we should have the 10 Commandments in the school, they had 10 Commandments in the school when I was little, and it didn't change anything. We didn't discuss 10 Commandments. We didn't pray in school when it was still allowed. And the thing of it is, that should be taken care of at home. People who don't talk to their kids about sex, don't say anything to their kids about sex, don't tell them if you have unprotected sex, you could get AIDS, you could get HIV, you could get pregnant. These are the same people who say, I don't want it taught in schools. Well, but then
say no, Gayle.
Too late.
I know.
Oh, wait, what are we talking about? Because I went to Berkeley. Or is it weed, sex?
That's TV's Gayle Bass. He's Chuck Coughlin. There's Mike Broomhead.
Just bringing back
goodness.
a little 1980s rhetoric back into
the war room.
At 5 o'clock, we carried the president. His speech went about 15 minutes. We've kind of gone over that. Bruce, you and I will go over a little bit more in the 6. But let's bring this up with our panel. So we have Harris. No one's going to run against her. Nobody wants to run against her. I think some people have been told don't run against her. How about Arizona Senator Mark Kelly at the top of the VP list? What's the argument for Kelly? What do you guys like about Kelly?
Well, first of all, he's an astronaut. Number 2,
he's an astronaut.
You just start with astronaut.
Number 3, he's an astronaut.
Is that it?
No.
If you really want to do something on, I just think if you really want to do something and move the needle on some domestic issues that we've been battling with for so long, this is the guy you want in front of it. That's it. Because he I feel like he has a Chuck Coughlin feel where no matter what he says, you're going to sit down and you're going to listen to what he actually says.
Well, that's very nice. But
I know.
But I'd say he brings a lot. You know, we all grew up in the Apollo era,
Sure.
right? Mm-hmm. And so we all were like googly-eyed when somebody wants to say the word astronaut.
Yeah.
That's still prevalent in all of our lives. I mean,
He's a
younger people
combat
don't really
fighter
see that.
pilot.
He's also
you know.
a combat fighter pilot.
Yeah.
He's a victim of gun violence.
But, let's
and
go
he's
there for a
married
second.
to Gabby Giffords.
Battle tested. He's been battle tested.
Oh my gosh.
His wife was shot horribly. You just don't put anybody
I would argue
up
his
in as
wife
astronaut.
would be the senator,
Yeah.
but for that.
Yes.
I mean, there's
there's
really little doubt in my mind because when that happened, I was like, oh my God, this is a tragedy because she was a fantastic
rising star.
congresswoman from Southern Arizona. When you saw during the State of the Union speeches, she was sitting between Jeff Flake and Raul Grijalva and friends with both of them, and I'm like, how does that happen?
Well, that happens because you have people who are able to be friends and have political differences, and those adults have mostly left the room.
So I just don't get a big sense of who he is because he's not the internet celebrity. He's not on the cable news all the time.
Yeah.
We're speaking about Senator Kelly. And so while I think it's novel and I like the idea of an Arizonan on the ticket, I admit I don't know a ton about him. I've barely heard the guy speak.
Yeah, and is he the most qualified that the Democrats would love and the independents would embrace? Is he that, or is it someone that's a chief executive
He's
like
got
Shapiro?
2 years of. Well, he has about the same amount of experience as J.D. Vance, right? They were both elected around the same time.
Isn't the real question?
J.D. Vance can't fly to the moon. Let's face it.
Isn't the real question? Does he move?
Does he move the needle in Arizona?
In Arizona,
No doubt.
Kelly can move the needle in Arizona.
Off the deck. It's off the table. I mean,
Really?
I think
Wait.
I think he moves the ticket off the table in Arizona.
Takes Arizona out of
the
being
table.
a swing
You
state.
mean they win Arizona if he joins the ticket?
Absolutely.
Really?
Why do you think that?
I don't think
I
that.
don't agree with that.
I don't
All
agree with
right.
that at all.
Chuck, I'm not willing
He's
to bet
won
you,
two
but
elections. He's just won 2 back-to-back elections in Arizona. People are familiar with him who vote. Gayle's just given a testimonial about his character. I mean, what takes him down?
border.
The border.
Which is, I would want him there, Mike. I would want him to be
I'm
arguing.
just saying that the uphill battle,
Yeah.
in my opinion, the uphill battle for the vice president running here with what's happened at the border, that's why she, in my opinion, can't win Arizona no matter who her running mate is.
I think there's a jiu-jitsu move here that can happen because she can say it's at an all-time low right now, lower than your administration.
Well,
Because
Biden said that tonight in his speech.
said it in his speech.
But he
Oh,
forgot
yeah.
about the last 3 years.
Right.
Is there an issue about California and Arizona? I mean, 2 kind of West Coast on a ticket?
No, because California's going to go D anyways.
No, but I meant from the standpoint of how does
rest of
that
the
play
country?
in Michigan and
I would argue
Pennsylvania and North Carolina?
That's a good point. That's a really good point, and why I don't think it will be Kelly.
Oh, okay.
But I would say it's a very positive thing for Kelly to be considered. It's a very safe bet for her to pick him because I would say on the immigration thing, Mike, that I would turn around and say all-time low right now, and you killed it. You killed the legislation sponsored by a Republican senator because you didn't want to solve this problem.
I think that's going to be her argument. But
It will.
how does he help her in the immigration argument in Arizona?
Because I would argue Arizona voters are the most sophisticated immigration voters in the country.
More
We
than
know.
Texas.
Because
More
we've
than
been dealing with this over a decade now. It's unbelievable how much we've been dealing with it.
Hey, listen though, I'm from San Diego, and I remember people coming across the border onto onto our property,
Right.
my mom would give them water, and it was not anything that I was fearful of. And saying that, they're not sending us their
Well,
best.
they were coming to work in the fields,
Yes.
probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me,
They weren't coming from all over the world.
so when I hear those words like they're going to come and they're not sending us their best, I'm like, actually, they're sending the hardest working people I know. So that's something that a lot of Arizonans know. Like, you don't need a nuanced message for Arizona.
Right. But back the VP thing. So I'm not going to argue with the Shapiro. That may be a problem in Michigan because he's of Jewish faith. That may be a problem in dragging him down with some of those, that Palestinian and that Arab contingent in Dearborn, and that may be a problem. That's something to look at. I would argue, and people will look at me and say I'm crazy, is Gretchen Whitmer would be the best bet, because if
Two
you
women on the ticket?
You want to reassemble the
You've
Obama
lost your
coalition.
ever-loving mind.
You want to reassemble the Obama coalition.
Really?
That's hope and change.
Really?
That's hope
All right.
and change right there.
That's the war room.
Wow. Okay. There's a lot.
There's a lot
We're going to
there.
have to start making bets on this. I want some dinners and lunches out of it, all right?
I'm with you. Let's do that.
Let's
Let's
make
do
some
it.
bets.
Absolutely.
Can you invite us back?
We will invite you back. You got it. Chuck Coughlin, Mike Broomhead, Gayle Bass, all in the war room. Thank you guys so very much.
Thanks for watching Outspoken with Bruce and Gaydos. Tap to watch more from KTAR News and click the button in the middle to subscribe.